Hey, how's it going? Today I'm going to be going over the packet tracer activity 2.7.6 implementing basic connectivity from the Intro to Networks course on Netacad. On the left hand side here, I have that PDF pulled up that basically walks you through this activity. And on the right hand side, this is the packet tracer lab environment that we will be working through. Alright, so let's get started. The first thing we want to do here is navigate to the addressing table. This addressing table literally tells us everything we need to know. The switch 1, switch 2, PC1, and PC2 that we're working with, its corresponding interfaces that we need to configure, their IP addresses, and their subnet masks. The instructions here state that the part 1, we need to perform a basic configuration on S1 and S2. And the first things here they want us to do is configure S1 with a host name, right? So simply by doing that, we can just go ahead and click on S1. This icon here will take us to the CLI screen. This is the command line interface for switch 1. And we can't really do much here on the user exec mode. So what we're going to do is navigate to the privileged exec mode via the enable command. Now, the privileged exec mode is here notioned by the hashtag. However, with the privileged exec mode, you can't configure the switch, especially with the hostname stuff here. So what we're going to do is then navigate to the the switch configuration mode. So that's the this is the global configuration mode, which is configure terminal. It should show something like this: switch config hashtag. That goes to show that we are officially in the global configuration mode. Let's go ahead and expand this a little bit here. Alright, so now that we're in global configuration mode, we can now set the hostname. The hostname command is simply just hostname, and then whatever the hostname you want for the switch. So you can see the hostname is different from the official label here. Here it shows S1 for switch, and here it shows switch. What we're changing is the switch within the specific iOS. So we're going to change that to correspond with their labeling here, which is S1. So now we notice that switch is now replaced with S1. The second step here, to configure the console and encrypt and encrypted privileged exec mode passwords. Use Cisco for the in-console password, and use class for the privileged exec mode password. Alright, so what we want to do here is go ahead and configure that use Cisco for the console password. And what we're going to do here is navigate to line console 0. We're going to get into a console interface here. It should show you S1 config -line with an hashtag here. And so in order to configure this password as Cisco, all we're going to do is go ahead and type in password Cisco, enter, and then make sure you guys type in login. And what that will do is ensure that this password is required upon login. If you do not type login after this, it will not prompt the user for a password. Therefore, the password will not work, or they will be able to get in without the password, to better phrase that. Once we're done doing that, we're going to go ahead and click exit, or type exit. We're going to now use class for the privileged exec mode password. We can simply do that by typing in enable secret class. So once we do that, now we've set class as the privileged exec mode password. And secret here is basically just making it so that way it's not viewable in plain text. I'll show you exactly what that means here. If I show running config, if I didn't type in the secret command, you would be able to see class as a password right here in plain text. However, since I wrote secret, it encrypts it with a bunch of random characters. So that's that. Step 3, let's verify the password configurations for S1. How can you verify that both passwords were configured correctly I mean, pretty basic on that one. All you got to do is click or type in exit, and you're going back to the initial screen. And this is where it's going to request you for your password, which then we can type in Cisco. So I typed in Cisco for the console password, and then you would type in your enable command, and now it's going to ask you for your privilege exec mode password, which is class. And there you go. Now we've ensured that both passwords are working properly. Next step here, it says that we want to use an appropriate banner to warn unauthorized access, right? And this is the example they're giving us. We're going to copy this right here. You can typically type anything, it shouldn't matter, but we'll just go with the example here. We're going to go ahead and click, or go back onto our command line interface for S1, type in enable, type in your password, class, and then type in configure terminal. After that, since we want to do the banner command is banner MOTD. MOTD stands for message of the day with a delimiter, and the delimiter can be any special character, so any of these. You just got to make sure that, let's say if I use the hashtag, you got to make sure you type your message here, and end it with the same delimiter. So if you're doing it with a hashtag, it has to end with a hashtag. If you're doing it with a $, it has to end with a $. So for example, let's do it with $. We're going to go ahead and paste that message they want us to type here and end it with a $. And what that's doing is basically telling Cisco that the message is encapsulated here within these two delimiters. So show that when the user logs on. So you're going to click enter. It shouldn't show any error message or anything. It should go automatically, and it should work. So we can verify that by exiting once again. So type in exit, and then type in exit one more time. And so now we can see that that message there that we copied and pasted is now the first message on the CLI interface, or the command line interface. So now we're going to go back and type in our Cisco as password, enable, type in class for password for the privilege exec mode, and configure terminal. Now we're going to go to step 4. I want to save the configuration file to the NVRAM, which stands for non-volatile RAM, random access memory. Which command can we use for this, right? Well, simply we can do this in, so I'm going to actually get out of that, exit. We can do this in the privileged exec mode. So, so we can do this in this mode right here. And that command simply is copy, running, config, and then startup config. It's going to ask you for a destination file name. You can typically just click enter and it'll override it with the current one. And perfect. Now what that basically did was save this as a startup configuration file. Basically what that means is now when we restart, or if we lost connection to the switch for whatever reason, when the switch starts back up again, it should load up with the current configuration. So all the changes we made should be saved. Sweet. So now we're going to go ahead and repeat steps 1 to 5 for step 2, or switch 2, sorry. I'm going to go back over to switch 2, click and enter, click enable, or sorry, type enable, type in configure terminal. And here we can go ahead and configure our passwords, right? Or actually our hostname first. Hostname is S2 according to their naming convention. We can now configure our passwords. I want to go into line console 0, set our password as Cisco. Make sure to type in that login command. Exit. Then go ahead and type in enable secret class. And that is to set the privilege exec mode password here as class. Click enter. Once that's done, I want to go down here, and now we want to also type in this banner MOTD. So be sure to copy this here. Type in your banner MOTD command with the delimiter. So we can use hashtags this time. Paste your message between the hashtags, and you've set your banner. Finally, we want to exit the configuration mode to go to the privilege exec mode. And once we're here, we want to do copy, run, start, which is short for copy running configuration, startup configuration. So we're going to click enter again, and that should save it to the NVRAM, our current configuration. Sweet. We're going to go to part 2 here. We want to configure the PCs. Configure PC1 and PC2 with their IP addresses, right? So we can see here, PC1's IP address is right here. PC2's IP address is right here. Let's go and start out with PC1. Click on PC1. Click on IP configuration, right? And here, what you're going to do is type in the IPv4 address, which is listed here. And for PC1, that is 192.168.1.1. The subnet mask for that typically autofills, but sometimes it doesn't when you're doing variable length subnetting or customized, subnet masks, stuff like that. So just make sure this matches with what you intend it to be. It'll automatically fill it. So for that, it automatically fills with 255.255.255.0. X out of that. Go on to PC2, same thing, IP configuration, and populate this with the corresponding IP. 192.168.1.2, 255.255.255.0 for subnet mask. X. Let's go back down here. It says here that click the desktop tab. Okay, we've done that. We've configured the IP addresses. We've configured the subnet mask, and we're going to repeat it. So we did that. So now we're going to go to step 2. Test connectivity to switches. It's pretty simple. All you got to do is, here it wants us to go on the PC1. And what we're going to do here is go on the command line, and we're going to do issue the ping command. And we're going to ping switch 1. So that's right here. And the switch 1's IP address, you can also find here. 192.168.1.253. 192.168.1.253. And you don't need to type the subnet mask in for the ping command. Click enter. Alright, so now we notice that we have a request timed out after we issue the ping command to the switch 1. That basically means that, hey, my PC1 cannot access switch 1. This route is not working for some weird reason. We need to figure it out, right? So let's go ahead and go back to this instructions here. Were you successful? Explain. That'd be no, we were not. Part 3, configure the switch management interface. So we're going to configure switch 1 and switch 2 with an IP address, which we have yet to do. And that is exactly why our PCs cannot ping switch 1, because there is no IP address configured to switch 1. The switch 1, switch 2, and typically the Cisco devices are not plug and play, especially like switches and routers, and you really have to configure them. So we're going to have to do that first. So let's go ahead and click on switch 1 and go ahead and configure that with an IP address. All right. So what we're going to do here is go ahead and enter the configure terminal. Once we're here, we're going to go to interface VLAN 1. Why we're going to interface VLAN 1 is because that is the interface we want to basically configure with this IP address and this subnet mask. And to simply do that, all we have to do is type in IP address and then type in the IP address 192.168.1.253. Oh, I accidentally clicked enter. Redo that. 192.168.1.253 with the corresponding subnet mask. So 255.255.255.0. Enter. So that should work right there. Typically, to best practice in Cisco is to add a description to the VLAN, and our description is simply, you can type in description here and type the description right after, and this description would simply be VLAN 1. That's mainly for the purpose of if there's multiple people in your company that are working on a switch and they just want to know, hey, what is this VLAN for? You can type in a thorough description for them. Next thing we want to do is, so once you type in the IP address of whatever that may be in the VLAN, you want to make sure you issue the no shutdown command. And it should come up with line protocol on interface VLAN 1 state, change state to up. And that's because every interface, so if I do show interface brief, by default, these are manually down. And now we notice that our VLAN 1 is now up. Here you can see the status. They're all down manually until you say otherwise. So we can do the no shutdown command to enable them. And then it shows here that we've issued that IP address. All right, so let's get rid of that. And now we can go ahead and reissue our ping command on PC1 to see if that worked. Go to command prompt on PC1. You can just hit the up arrow and it should come up with that previous command. Hit ping. Let's fast forward that. Now we've got reply from the switch. Here it shows all the detail for it. All we know is it's successful. We received them. That's all that matters. So here we've finished part 3 of step 1 to configure S1 with the IP address. And now we're going to move on to step 2 where we configure S2 with an IP address. So we basically just go back to S2 here, click enter, type in our passwords. So Cisco enable class for the privilege exec pass. Go in configuration mode, so configure terminal. And then we want to go into the VLAN interface for S2. So interface VLAN 1. We're going to go in and issue the IP address command to issue an IP address to this VLAN. So the IP address followed by the IP address in the addressing table. So 192.168.1.254 with a subnet mask of 255.255.255.0. We're going to go ahead and issue the no shutdown command. Make sure it's up now. And then you can give it a description of VLAN 1. Exit. So now we've done that. Go back down here, see what the next step is. Step 3, verify IP address configuration on switch 1 and switch 2. You can do the show IP interface brief command, so the command I did earlier. You can also use show running config. So we can go ahead and run that. Show IP interface brief. And like I mentioned earlier, this right here shows that Fast Ethernet 0-1 and 0-2 are up, and that's because they are connected to PC1. I'm sorry, in this scenario, it's connected to PC2 and switch 1. And then VLAN 1 is up because we manually configure that with this IP address, and we issued the no shutdown command. That shows proof that this is configured properly. Now we're going to go ahead and save it to the NVRAM. So saving this configuration to the startup configuration. That way when we restart the switch, this is the default configuration. So go ahead and click on switch 2. Or let's do it with switch 1 first. Click on switch 1. Exit. Copy. Run. Start. Enter. And then same for switch 2. Copy. Run. Start. Enter. Basically that stands for, once again, copy running configuration, startup configuration. Once we've done that, we want to verify network connectivity. We're going to go through these steps here. A, click on PC1 and then click on desktop tab. Go ahead and click on that. Click on desktop tab and then click on command prompt. Scroll down. We're going to ping IP address for PC2. So we're going to hit the ping command. PC2's IP address is up here. We know PC2 is 192.168.1.2. Enter. So we're getting replies, pretty successful, so we can X out of that. We can now go ahead and ping the IP address for S1 and S2 as well. So go back on PC1, command prompt. We can ping S1, 192.168.1.253, 192.168.1.253. And that's switch 1. Let's see if we can get a successful reply. Yep. And then finally, we're going to ping S2, which is right here, switch 2, from PC1. So we're going to ping S2, which is 192.168.1.254. And let's see if we get a successful reply. There we go. We got a successful reply. Sometimes it'll take a little bit for it to populate, so we'll get a request timeout for the first or second line. But eventually you'll get reply successful if you've configured it correctly. And that concludes our lab exercise here. That is how you do 2.7.6 packet tracer implementing basic connectivity. Here we can see that our completion rate is 100%, which means we've completed all these objectives. If you guys had questions about anything in particular of this video, feel free to drop it in the comment section below and I will reply. Feel free to look at my next videos for packet tracer labs. I'll be making a playlist on CCNA specific labs. Thank you for watching. See you guys next time.